Hello and welcome. My internet is giving me a hard time, so I'm changing over to my hotspot. I'm sorry about that. I'm looking down to see if my phone's hotspot is working, and now I'm live. I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend, and I hope you're ready to dive into burnout today. Burnout is becoming quite the epidemic in our society, and we're really just suffering from a collective trauma throughout the world right now because of what we've gone through with the pandemic. So we're seeing burnout just becoming this big, overwhelming thing, and we're exhausted. I talk to so many of you every day. And in fact, this morning when I first woke up, one of my new things that I do is I won't allow myself to look at my phone for the first hour that I'm awake. And part of that reason is because it's overwhelming for me to just look at my phone. So when I first woke up, my phone just kept beeping and beeping and beeping and beeping. And that meant that the text messages were coming in, right? And I just had to really just tell myself, don't pick it up, don't pick it up, don't pick it up. But I did, which went against and I looked, and 8 different people have already messaged me, right? And this was at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I decided I'm not going to look at them yet. I'm not going to start my day that way. And I put my phone down and I waited the hour. I did all the things I need to do. And then I came back and I looked. And almost every text in there was just somebody who is tired and overwhelmed and just exhausted through life and just basically looking for some kind of help, looking for prayer, just for um, instruction, for guidance, for just somebody to vent to. So I just really thought, well, this timing on the overwhelm series I'm doing probably couldn't get better, right? And I really looked over my notes on what I plan on speaking about today, which I think pertains to pretty much everybody, all 8 people who messaged me this morning. So hopefully this is something that you resonate. Before I get started, though, I probably should introduce myself to you in case you're new to me and what I teach. My name is Evelyn Knight. I am the founder and CEO of Childcare Business Professionals, which is a company that is on a mission. We are on a mission to touch 1 million children's lives, and we're going to do that through owners and directors. The more we can help owners and directors level up and help them learn how to have successful childcare centers that put the children first, we will be able to put children first. And we'll be able to just transform this world by helping others understand what our best practices and why is it vital as childcare centers that we prioritize them. I'm also the host of the Childcare Business Coach podcast, and I am a childcare center owner myself. So that is a couple things that make me unique in the business coaching field. I own a center. I have everyday actual real life experience, and I have a background in psychology. So I understand how people work. And I also have a very deep understanding that you will not be successful if you don't work on your brain. It starts here, right? If you really want to be successful, it starts with mindset. It starts with your mental health. And so we incorporate all of that into business practices. Because if you don't know what role to step into and who to be and how that person is, you're not going to find that success. So enough about me. And we will get into just this part 2 of overwhelm. So I want to tell you a story that one of my former coaches, who I adore, just somebody who inspires me. I look to her as a mentor, Kyrie Vare, a story that she tells a lot that has really honestly changed my life. And so we're going to start with story time today. So there was a farmer, and the farmer had 1 horse and a son. And basically his entire livelihood depended on this horse and the son. Well, one day a pack of wild horses came and took his only horse away. His neighbors came over and said to him, "Oh, you have the worst luck. What are you going to do? You have no horse to plow your fields. You're going to go bankrupt. You're going to lose everything. Your life is over. You are just going to be destitute now. So the farmer turned to his neighbors and said, good thing, bad thing, who knows? The next day, the horse came back, and with him, he brought a dozen other wild horses. The farmer was able to take those wild horses and train them. And the neighbors came over and they said, wow, you have the best luck ever. Here we thought you were ruined. And the worst thing that could have happened to you, losing your horse, turned out to be the best thing. Now you're rich. You have a dozen horses you can sell, and you're rich. You'll never have to work again. So about a week went by, and the horse, his only son, was training one of the horses, and the horse bucked him off, and his only son broke his arm. So the neighbors ran over once again, and they said to him, oh my gosh, we thought you were the luckiest, but turns out you're so unlucky. You're old, you're frail. You can't work this farm by yourself. You are done. You're destitute. Your only son has broke his arm. Once again, the farmer says, good thing, bad thing, who knows? The following week, the army comes into town and they tell everybody there is war and we're taking all your boys. All the men that were of age had to go off to war. They went to the farmer's son and saw his arm was broken, so they had to leave him behind. So once again, his neighbors came over and they just basically said, I cannot believe your luck. How is it? You lose your horse and then he brings back a dozen more. Your son breaks his arm because of the horses, and now it's a good thing that your son broke his arm. You've got to be the luckiest man alive. And the farmer says, good thing, bad thing, who knows? And this story goes on and on and on. And it basically just keeps going where it's just that good thing to bad thing, good thing to bad thing, good thing to bad thing, right? And it's really just a great representation of life in general. And through my years of studying mental health, one of the things that I've really discovered is that as a culture, we seem to see things as going on a straight line, right? And I can tell you through the therapy that I've been through after losing my husband, and before I lost him, I went into therapy for about a year, and I've continued with it since his passing. And one of the biggest lessons that has completely changed my life, and the biggest lesson that has helped me to defeat overwhelm, to not be overcome by grief, to really just persevere, has to do with this story. Good thing, bad thing, who knows? I came to realize that life is binary. Life is not black and white. It's not if this, then this, right? Life is and. Life can be hard and wonderful at the same time. With the farmer's story, a good thing can also be a bad thing, right? But what's most important about that story about the farmer is that the farmer didn't put labels on anything. He made sure everything remained binary, right? He didn't see anything as good or bad. Everything around him was always neutral. He walked into every situation as if it were neutral. There was no good, there was no bad. Everything has good in it and everything has bad in it. He saw everything as that 50-50 split, which is what life really is. Life is always going to be 50% good and 50% bad. The problem is that we so focus on the 50% negativity. That is where we put our focus. The other issue that we run into is we live life not expecting it when things go bad. We basically live our lives and we're shocked when things go wrong and we're disappointed and we're angry instead of the reality of knowing things don't always go our way. Things aren't always under our control, right? Everything is neutral. Yes, Lisa says everything is neutral. Absolutely. But one of the things we really need to lean into is the fact that there will always be struggles. There will always be great times, and that's okay. So many of us business leaders go into business with these hopes and dreams, and we see our careers and our trajectories like this, right? We see it, well, and sometimes we even see it like this, where it's like, I'm going to become a business owner. Everything's going to go great. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to change the world of children. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this, right? And we have what's called unrealistic. There's actually a psychological term for it that for some reason I am totally blanking on, but that's basically they're unrealistic expectations is what they really are. And basically what we need to do is really change our mindset to understanding that life is not a flat line. Life is binary. It's going to go like this, right? It's going to go up and down, up and down. And what we really need to do is change our perspective to looking at it almost like a spring where it's going in circles, right? You're going to be up, but that is going to slope down, but that's okay because the momentum of sloping down makes you go back up, right? So, one of the most important things when it comes to really controlling the narrative in your mind and really controlling your overwhelm is really embracing the fact that it's not always going to be good. And that's okay. That is okay. We need to change our mind shift and know that life is about learning. Everything we experience, good or bad, is about learning, right? And what really changed for me is that I learned that and I still struggle with this, I have to say, but what I'm learning, I should say, is I have to stop finding my validation through my experiences and where I am, right? My businesses are going to do great sometimes, and sometimes they're not. My employees are going to love me sometimes, and sometimes they're not, right? Some days it's going to be easy to be a business owner, and sometimes it's not. And that's okay. And I have to be okay and not find myself by where I am today, right? I can't allow life to define me. I can't allow where I am today. I can't look for my validation through my life experiences and where I am. But what I can do is learn from it. If I approach life as a student, constantly learning and constantly growing, it really does help overcome that burnout because I no longer expect everything to go my way, right? I really diminish my unrealistic expectations. And that is really what causes burnout. We have unrealistic expectations of outcomes, right? We thought something was going to go this way and it doesn't, and we just plummet. It's okay to hope for the best. Absolutely. It's okay to plan for the best. It's okay to want the best and to dream big. But you can't allow yourself to plummet emotionally when things don't turn out the way you thought they would, right? You just can't allow that because it's life, it's normal. You might buy your dream house and then your dream house turns out to not be the dream house that you thought it was. That's okay. You roll with the punches, look at it as an opportunity, and create the dream house, right? Turn it into the dream house. But when you approach life as a learning experience and you look at life as being a student of life instead of looking at it as life is happening to me or I must not be good enough because this wouldn't happen to me if I was, right? It really changes your perspective and it makes things a lot easier for us to go through. So, really, just changing that perspective, look at how the farmer, to him, everything was neutral. He didn't, good thing, bad thing, who knows, right? Some of the worst things is son breaking his arm turned out to save his son's life. And I'll tell you guys a story. It's kind of fun for me. When I was in Florida, it really hit home for me. My rental car broke down, and I was so upset about it. I was so upset that my rental car broke down, but because my rental car broke down, I ended up getting um, an upgrade to a very nice sports car at no additional charge, right? So basically, I wanted a really nice car, but it was going to cost literally double the amount to get this car that I wanted. And I ended up getting the car anyway for the lower price point of having like just a normal everyday car because it broke down. So when the car broke down, I was very, very upset because I had to go. It basically took a couple hours out of my day. It was this domino effect of things. I was late for the conference I was supposed to be going to. All of these things happened because my rental car broke down. But I was in Florida for 9 days. So that 2 hours of annoyance, right, that seemed at the moment like a very bad thing, turned out to be a really good thing because I got to be in one of my dream cars for the next 9 days, basically. So when you really think of that good thing, bad thing, who knows? When I was going through it, and as I was driving, as I drove across Florida. So I was driving across Florida, I realized this is a perfect illustration of good thing, bad thing, who knows, right? Because as I sat on the side of the road with a broken down car and I didn't know what to do, I thought to myself, this is awful, and I was stuck in that mindset of, oh, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe my rental car, I've got to return this rental car now, get a new one. It's going to be so annoying. That means we've got to get to the airport. We have to do all this stuff. But the outcome turned out to be a good thing, right? Now, that could have easily changed. It was a very nice sports car. So, if we wanted to keep going with that trajectory, I could have gotten a ticket because it was a very nice sports car, right? So, it just shows you that life isn't like this. Even my experience with renting a car is not a straight line. That was the loops, right? I rented the car, was excited to be in Florida, but then it went down because the car broke down. Then I had to get the new one, but that went back up because I got an amazing car to drive for the next 9 days. So it is that spring effect, right? Where our lives are constantly flowing like this. You're going to have the ups and it's going to go down, but it's going to go back up. And it's really leaning into that. And it's really looking at the fact that all of the lessons that we learn in life come from our experiences. That is how we grow. That's how we get to the next level, right? That is how we literally level up, is through our experiences. Really leaning into the fact that anything is possible, but it's not going to be easy. It's going to come with challenges, will really help you as well. And knowing that things are hard, but when you fight through it, it makes it worthwhile, right? And approaching it as a learning, always growing, having a mindset of constant growth forever is huge. So I want to go back to what I was talking about, of the emotional cycles, right? What I was talking about. And when you first go into something, and everything we approach in life, basically, we go into what's called an uninformed optimism. And this is actually the work of a psychologist named Don Kelly. Okay. Uninformed optimism is where we approach something and we look at the best case scenario. And our brains basically tell us this is what's going to happen, right? And our brains are wired to pretty much look at it from this optimistic, this is the best that can happen. And not everybody is like this. Some of us have learned to become cynical, but we see the best, but we don't look at all the other variables. And I see this way too often with the childcare center owners. They go in and they think, oh my goodness, I'm going to change the world. This center, I'm going to make money. I'm going to be rich and I'm going to love children and do everything. And it's going to be butterflies and roses, right? All the time. But then life, the reality hits, right? And you suddenly realize that running a business is not like running your home. And you go into what's called informed pessimism. And that is when reality hits and you see the real world and what it looks like, right? The next phase is called the valley of despair. And this is where people usually drop off. They go into this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I thought it was going to be. I have had it. I am done. I am not fighting anymore. I'm not living this life. This is not what I signed up for, right? And most people, about 80% of people quit at this stage. They don't go on from there. If you're one of the 20% and you have the courage to keep going, you go into what's called informed optimism. And this is basically the opposite of the informed pessimism. And this is where you go from understanding, yes, this is going to be challenging. Yes, it's hard. No, it's not perfect, but that's okay. I can still do it and I'm going to do it, right? And only 20% of people make it to this portion. Now, the last and the fifth stage, there's only about 1% of the population make it to this last stage, and that is the stage of success, where you've made it through the first four stages, you've persevered long term, and you find that success that gets you going. The reason only 1% get there is because throughout the journey, you kind of cycle through stages 1 through 4 over and over and over. And I'll tell you, I'll be the first one to tell you, doesn't matter your level of success. Okay. It doesn't end, you guys. It doesn't end. Just because I have a successful childcare center, I have 2 successful businesses, I'm doing well, doesn't mean it's always great. The problems just get bigger, right? It doesn't change. Things are the same. It's more understanding and accepting this and being okay with that, right? And also leaning into it and looking at it as, okay, this is done. I've learned one more thing. That's awesome. One more thing under my belt. I've just grown that much more. And you keep going and you keep going. That's the point. And when you can keep going through those cycles without giving up, and you really intentionally keep yourself in that informed optimism, you will get to that point of success. So now, knowing that, I challenge you and I ask you, how many of you have the fortitude to get to that level of success? How many of you have the fortitude to see life as good, bad, who knows, right? How many of you have the mental strength and capacity to be that person? And if you don't, what are you willing to do to get there? That is really where it lies. Everybody has the capacity, but where the key lies is, are you willing? Are you willing to persevere through burnout? Are you willing to change your mindset? Are you willing to lean into being a student of life instead of looking for validation through your experiences, right? Are you willing to face hard things and accept the fact that life isn't always going to be good? Things aren't always going to go our way, but that's okay. That is okay. It's all a part of life. Are you going to accept the 50% bag and not focus on it? Not live your life focusing on that 50% negative, but lean into the 50% positive, right? And it doesn't mean we can ignore that negative, but it really does come down to you. Let's see. I've got some comments. Yes, lessons we learn from life is how we go. After Lance died, I was asking God why. I'm going to actually share Shilin. Shilin is such an inspiration to me. Shilin lost her son, older teenage son, I believe. And I'm sure I can't imagine going through what you went through, Shilin, but the fact that you show up every day as such a strong leader is such a huge inspiration. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I could not agree with you more. It's after Lance died, I was asking God why? Why? After some time with Jesus, my perspective changed. Now it's what, God? Yes, absolutely. What can I do in the tragedy that will bring glory to you? God is so faithful. I totally agree. And I honestly don't know how people make it through life without leaning on Christ and his just amazing love through everything and giving it all to him. And everything I've been through, I have to agree with you on that. I have to give God all the credit. And definitely, I'm the same way. When my journey with losing my husband, there was a couple of years I struggled and I was very angry with God. And I left my relationship with God for a while. I never stopped believing, I never stopped loving Christ, but I was like the angry daughter who just didn't want to talk to him. My feelings were so hurt when I knew that I was going to lose my husband. I literally had conversations with God like I have lived my entire life. When I was 7 years old, I knew I was going to commit my life to Christ. And I was already a saved person, but I knew my life, I would commit it to the point that my life work, everything I did was going to revolve around what God told me to do and where God called me. And ever since then, every decision I've made in my life pretty much was like, okay, how does this glorify God in my life? Right. I mean, of course, I'm human, so I made some stupid decisions too. But for the most part, my career and the big things, and as a mother, when I went to college, everything in my mind was, is this serving my purpose that God has me on earth for? So when it came painfully obvious that my husband was going to die, and God basically revealed to me that he wasn't going to save him, I was very angry. I was very angry. And I did do a lot of why, right? But everything changed for me as well when I changed that why to a what. It was just basically trusting too that, you know what, God, you know better than me. I'm not smart enough to figure this stuff out. So I'm just going to go with the flow and let you take my life where you want it to go. And I'm going to trust that you are going to take it in a good direction. And that it was really freeing for me, huge. And also accepting the right? God doesn't tell us that life has to be good or bad. He doesn't tell us that you have to be happy or sad. He doesn't tell me that I can't mourn the life I lost. And Shaylin, you're in the same boat. God didn't tell us that we can't be sad for our losses and excited for what those losses bring to our life, right? And society would tell us opposite. Society would tell us that we need to be these sad, grieving people for the rest of our lives instead of leaning in and making the best of it. So, dealing with huge tragedy, people expect you to crumble. And when you don't, it's almost more hard for them to accept. So, accepting it and asking what is huge. I could not agree more. And thank you for sharing that because I think is life changing, to be honest. It has changed my life. Accepting the what next instead of the why is this happening. Going from that victim mentality to victor. I do positive affirmations every day. And today, the one that flashed in my screen actually said, I am a victor. I am not a victim. And it really is. It is what to live life by. When you do focus on that and you stop with that victim mentality, you'd be amazed how you can overcome overwhelm, right? Things still feel overwhelming. Absolutely. I woke up in this morning to 8 people texting me, just help me, text messages, right? But I choose, am I going to let this ruin my day? Am I going to allow this to overwhelm me, right? I choose how I am going to deal with the overwhelm. How am I going to manage it? There are days I go to bed feeling very overwhelmed. I do my brain dump. The next morning's the next day. I'm not going to allow that into my next day. That is the key. We choose what we allow. So that is what I have for you guys today. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know it is valuable and precious. But again, let me know if this has resonated with you, if it's helped, leave a comment and let us know how that's helped you in any way, or if it helped you in any way, or if you just thought it was the dumbest thing you've ever heard, right? Let me know. And if you do, then you're probably dealing with some victim mentality issues. So reach out. We can help you with that. So yes, Mandy says we choose what we allow. Yeah, absolutely. We choose what we allow. We can choose to get the toxicity out of our life. That is our choice. Every day we have a choice. Every day we allow, and I know there's some people in our lives, right, who may bring some toxicity that is very difficult to let go of, but how you internalize it really is up to you. It is up to you. If you let them get to you, that is up to you. Nobody can make you feel any way. It's how you allow your brain to think about what's happening that makes you feel something, right? It's the thoughts we allow in our brain that lets us think something. So have a wonderful day, everybody, and really just take care of those thoughts and just go out with intentionality. Bye, everybody.